Good morning. I'm Pastor Susan with Luther Memorial Lutheran Church. Today I am bringing you the gospel reading for Sunday, March 29th. I'm doing this separately since it's the whole of John chapter 11, and I'm going to give just a bit of commentary, so please be patient. The sermon will be offered in a separate segment. The Gospel according to John, the 11th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Jesus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now think of John 9, the story of the man born blind, which we just heard last week, where the disciples saw a problem. Jesus saw an opportunity for God's glorification through healing. So again, this illness, this problem, for Jesus is an opportunity. Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. 2 days longer. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and are you going there again?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light is not in them." And again, if you think of John 9, Jesus says there that we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. So now he is walking and working while it is day, and he is with them. After saying this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." Remember Thomas, sometimes called the doubter, because he wouldn't believe in the resurrection until he saw Jesus with his own eyes and touched his wounds? Here we see how passionately he loves his friend Lazarus, but we also see that he's actually focused on death rather than resurrection hope, although Jesus is still with them. Let us go die with him. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Remember that Jesus had delayed coming 2 days. He's late. Is Martha saying that Jesus has neglected his friend Lazarus? Or is she merely sorrowing? Although note that leaving 2 days earlier would have made no difference, actually, because Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. And by the way, 4 days means good and dead. The soul has separated from the body. This belief persists today. A friend told me when my mother died that my mother's spirit would be in her house for the first 48 hours, and I could speak with her. But now with Lazarus, we're at 96 hours, 4 days. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him. Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." When she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out. They followed her because they thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now, the Jewish people have a custom of sitting Shiva, which means that they spend 10 days surrounding the family of one who has died and supporting them in their mourning. And in ancient times, beyond this, there was a concept that mourning is public, and they would literally come to cry, even wail with the family for the death of the loved one. So the family of Lazarus and Martha and Mary was surrounded by their friends who were very likely crying and wailing with them. So now they follow Mary. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." If you remember, in the beginning of John, when Jesus is introduced to his first disciples, or they're introduced to him, they say, "Rabbi, where do you stay?" And he says to them, "Come and see." He invites them into his life. And now his disciples are saying to him, "Lord, come and see." They are inviting Jesus into their lives. This is God with us. This is Lord Emmanuel. This is our Christ. Lord, come and see. Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" So again, an expression either of doubt or distrust. Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench, because he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ.